Hey everyone, and welcome back. We've got a lot to cover today, from international tech to the auto industry.
Yeah, should be interesting. Let's kick things off with that DeepSeek story out of South Korea. It sounds like they might be in some hot water for sharing user data.
Definitely seems that way. They got pulled from the South Korean app stores over the weekend, right? So
Oh,
what's
yeah.
the latest on that?
Well, the app's still up online and for people who already have it, but South Korean regulators are looking into what data was shared. It's a sensitive situation because China's national intelligence law could give their government access to data from those companies. But, at the same time, it's also argued that it protects private data. It's a complicated situation, but worth keeping an eye on.
It really does make you wonder what kind of information could be at risk. If our TikTok activity could be linked to other stuff we do online.
Right. I mean, we need to understand what data could have been transferred and how it could be used. It brings up that question of how comfortable are we with sharing our info with these companies, especially ones that are in countries that might have different data privacy laws than ours. Think about how much data we generate every day. Browsing history, location, data, social media. It's a goldmine for companies, but it's also a risk if it gets into the wrong hands.
It's a good point, for sure. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about Meta. They're planning on building a massive undersea cable connecting continents. It's like 50,000 kilometers long.
That's wild, right? It shows that Meta is not just about social media anymore. They're making moves to be a big player in AI and global infrastructure.
Mhm.
The new cable will have a 24 fiber pair system, which means massive data capacity across the world.
But what does that actually mean for the average person? Will we see a difference?
I think it comes down to speed and control. Meta wants to have control over how information flows, and this cable gives them that direct line. For us, it could mean faster internet and easier access to their services. But then there are also concerns about monopolies and too much power in the hands of a few companies.
So it's a trade-off. We want faster internet, but we need to think about who controls it all.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the actual physical security of these cables. Accidents and sabotage are a real threat, especially with everything going on in the world. NATO's been stepping up their surveillance to protect these vital communication lines. It's a pretty big deal.
Okay, so moving on, we've got Elon Musk trying to buy OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT.
His offer was almost $100 billion, but they turned him down. Still, it was a big move that shook things up. Musk was actually one of the founders of OpenAI, but he's been critical of where they're going. Some people think he's trying to mess with their plans to go from nonprofit to for-profit.
Wait, so how does that even work? Can a company just decide to switch from nonprofit to for-profit like that?
Basically, they have to figure out what their assets are worth. Their tech, their intellectual property, their name recognition, and all that Musk's offer, even though it was rejected, could actually make those assets seem more valuable, which would make the whole transition more complicated and expensive.
So it's almost like he's playing a game,
Mm-hmm.
trying to influence OpenAI's future, even if he doesn't own it.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's also that whole public back and forth between Musk and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. They've been going at it on social media and in court. It doesn't seem like they get along very well.
It's definitely a story to follow.
Okay, so shifting gears completely, there's news from Colombia about a proposed law to ban selling stuff that glorifies Pablo Escobar.
It's definitely an interesting move trying to shift the focus away from the violence and the drug trafficking that he was known for. The whole Escobar story has been kind of romanticized over the years, but banning the merchandise is controversial. Some people say it's wrong to make money off of his image, while others say it's part of their history and you can't just erase the past. I can see both sides of that. It's like trying to rewrite history. But then again, promoting a drug lord sends a bad message, especially to younger generations.
Right. It's a tough situation. On one hand, you've got the impact on people who make a living selling that stuff, and then on the other hand, it's just not right to profit off of someone who caused so much pain.
It's a good reminder that the past always has an impact on us. Speaking of the past, let's talk about the American car industry and why they're having such a tough time in Europe.
It comes down to a few things. American cars are often seen as too big for European roads, and they use more gas, which is a problem with the prices over there. Also, European buyers tend to stick with the brands they know.
So it's kind of a cultural thing that what works in the U.S. doesn't always work in Europe.
Yeah, you could say that. And then there's the whole trade tariffs thing. The EU has higher tariffs on cars coming from the US than the US has on European cars. And then there's talk of President Trump raising tariffs even more, which could start a trade war.
Sounds like American car companies have an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's a tough market to break into. They'd really need to understand what Europeans want and build cars that fit their needs.
Okay, let's move to Japan, where there are rumors of a merger between Honda and Nissan.
There's a catch, though. Honda wants Nissan's current CEO, Makoto Uchida, to step down before they'll even talk about it. Last time they tried to make a deal, Honda wanted full ownership and Nissan wasn't having it.
So there's a bit of a power struggle going on. What does Uchida think about all of this?
He's under a lot of pressure to resign, especially since Nissan isn't doing so well financially. Merging with Honda could save them, but it depends on if Uchida's willing to give up his position.
It's high stakes for sure. And speaking of high stakes, Elon Musk is back in the news. This time is about something he did for his dad.
Yeah, he gave his father, Elon Musk, a Bentley flying spur.
A Bentley? Why not a Tesla?
Well, according to Errol, he liked the Bentley better. He was worried about the cost of a Tesla in South Africa and whether he'd be able to find charging stations.
It's funny. Even the richest man in the world has family stuff to deal with.
Yeah. It also shows how luxury car preferences are changing. Even for someone like Elon Musk, who's all about electric cars, there's still a place for those classic brands, especially in places where charging isn't easy.
Okay, let's talk about something that affects a lot of us. Retirement.
BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink has caused some controversy by saying we should raise the retirement age. He thinks since people are living longer, they should work longer.
It sounds kind of reasonable, but is it that simple?
An economist named Teresa Ghilarducci doesn't think so. She says that raising the retirement age is unfair to lower-income workers. They often have jobs that are hard on their bodies, and they might not be able to work longer even if they wanted to.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly. Ghilarducci thinks we should try other things, like raising taxes on the wealthy to help fund Social Security, or starting a national retirement savings plan where everyone has to contribute.
So it's about making a system that works for everyone, not just the people who are already well off.
Right. It's about making sure everyone has a chance to retire with dignity and financial security. You know, it's a reminder that the world of finance never really sleeps. It's always changing and affecting us in ways we might not even realize. But before we move on from that DeepSeek story, there's something else happening over there.
Oh, right. You mean the AI company that South Korea's investigating? What's going on?
So South Korea actually banned any new downloads of the DeepSeek AI chatbot. It's all because of those privacy concerns we were talking about. It's kind of a big deal because the app already had like 1 million downloads before they shut it down.
1 million? That's crazy. It sounds like this is bigger than just South Korea, though.
You're right. Other countries like Australia and Taiwan are also restricting it because of security risks. And European regulators are starting to look into how DeepSeek handles personal information. It seems like AI is moving faster than the rules can keep up with.
That is kind of worrying. I mean, we all love new technology and stuff, but not if it means giving up our privacy.
I agree. It's all about balance. Governments around the world are trying to figure out how to protect people's data without stopping innovation. This whole DeepSeek thing could change how AI companies are regulated in the future.
It does feel like things are changing fast. Okay, so let's switch gears for a sec and talk about American cars in Europe. Why are they still having so much trouble selling over there?
It's complicated, but a lot of it comes down to how people see American cars. Europeans often think they're too big and use too much gas, especially with their gas prices and smaller roads.
Is this like a cultural difference? What works in the U.S. doesn't work in Europe.
Pretty much. And European car brands have a lot of loyal customers, which makes it even harder for American companies to compete. They'd need to make smaller cars that use less gas if they want to appeal to European buyers.
And then there's those trade tariffs we talked about earlier. It doesn't sound easy.
It's not. But it's not impossible. If American car makers can figure out what Europeans want and work around those trade issues, they might be able to do well. But they'd need to really change their thinking.
All right, let's talk about something a little more positive. There's a movement in Colombia to get rid of anything that glorifies Pablo Escobar. They want to ban all the merchandise and stuff.
It's an interesting idea, right? It shows how much they want to move on from the past and change how people see Colombia's history.
I bet it's a sensitive topic, though. Some people might think they're trying to change history or censor their culture.
Definitely. It brings up all these questions about how we handle historical figures who did bad things. Do we try to forget about them, or do we face it head on and learn from what happened?
And what about the people who sell that stuff?
Yeah.
They make a living from it. It's a complicated situation.
It is. It's about finding a way to remember the past without celebrating it. Ultimately, it's up to each country to figure out how to deal with these issues and what they want their future to look like.
Let's go back to the car industry for a minute. We were talking about that potential Honda-Nissan merger.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's a lot in the way.
The biggest problem is that Honda wants Nissan's CEO, Makoto Uchida, to step down. Honda thinks he's the reason the deal isn't happening, And Uchida probably doesn't want to leave his job, especially since Nissan's not doing so well financially.
It sounds like they're at a standstill. So what are the chances they'll actually agree on something?
Hard to say. It's a big risk for both companies. If they can compromise, it could create a huge car company, but if they refuse to budge, they could both miss out.
And we can't forget about other companies that might try to buy Nissan, like Foxconn and those investment firms. The pressure is on.
Definitely. It's a constantly changing situation. We'll have to see what happens. Speaking of big names, Elon Musk is back in the news.
You mean the Bentley he gave his dad? I thought that was just a family thing.
It is. But it gives us some insight into their relationship. Even though they've had their ups and downs, Elon still seems to care about his father and likes to do big things for him.
It makes him seem more human, right? It reminds us that even the richest, most innovative people in the world still have family issues.
Totally. It also shows how tastes are changing. Even for someone like Elon Musk, who's all about electric cars, traditional luxury brands like Bentley still have their appeal, especially in places where there aren't many charging stations.
That's a good point. It's not just about the technology. It's about what people need and want. So let's go back to retirement planning. That was a big topic earlier.
Oh, yeah. Remember Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO? He suggested we raise the retirement age, and a lot of people disagreed with him.
Yeah, they said it wasn't fair to people with lower incomes.
Exactly. An economist named Teresa Ghilarducci has some different ideas. She thinks we should raise taxes on the wealthy to help pay for Social Security.
So basically share the wealth a little more.
Right. She also thinks we should have a national retirement savings plan where everyone has to put money in, kind of like what they have in other developed countries. That way, everyone would have some money saved up no matter how much they earn or what jobs they've had.
So it's about creating a system that works for everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly. It's about making sure everyone has the right to retire with dignity and financial security.
It makes you think. All right, well, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more on that DeepSeek situation. There's new development that we need to talk about. All right, so we're back. You said there were some new developments with DeepSeek.
Yeah, the South Korean regulator's been digging around, and it looks like DeepSeek really was sharing data with ByteDance. And it's more than they thought at first. We're talking personal info browsing history, even financial data in some cases.
That's not good.
Yeah.
What does this mean for people who downloaded the app? Is there anything they can do?
If they haven't already, they should delete the app right away. They should also change any passwords for accounts they used with the app and check their bank statements for anything weird. It's a reminder to be careful about what we share online, especially with apps that can access important stuff.
You're telling me it's a tough lesson to learn. This could really change how AI companies do business in the future.
Yeah, it could. Regulators all over the world are watching this case, and it might lead to stricter rules about data privacy and all that. It shows how important it is to think about ethics when you're developing new technology.
Okay, so let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the markets. Bitcoin and Dogecoin are down today, but Ethereum seems to be doing all right. What's going on there?
It's an interesting day for crypto, Reitera. Bitcoin and Dogecoin are being affected by the market being so up and down lately. Some investors are cashing out or going for safer options. Ethereum's doing well for a couple of reasons.
Like what?
Well, a lot of Ethereum has been moved from exchanges to cold wallets, which usually means people are planning to hold on to it for a while. That means less selling pressure.
So people are holding on to it instead of selling it off. Got it.
Right. And there's also a lot of excitement about the upgrades that are coming to Ethereum soon. They're supposed to make it faster and more efficient, which makes it more attractive to investors.
So keep an eye on Ethereum then. Okay, back to retirement planning. We were talking about raising the retirement age, and there's been a lot of pushback on that idea.
A lot of people think it's unfair to lower income workers. They often have jobs that are physically tough, and they might not be able to keep working even if they want to.
So what are the other options? How do we fix the retirement problem without hurting people who are already struggling?
Well, economist Teresa Ghilarducci has some interesting ideas. She thinks we should raise taxes on wealthy people to help pay for Social Security, since they've benefited the most from the economy doing well.
So kind of spread the wealth around a bit.
Yeah, and she also supports a national retirement savings plan where everyone has to contribute, kind of like they do in other countries. That way, everyone would have some money saved for retirement no matter what their job is or how much they make.
It's about making a system that helps everyone, not just a few people.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone deserves a secure retirement.
That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot today, from AI problems to the ups and downs of crypto to figuring out how to retire.
Oh,
It's been a busy day in the financial world.
It has. But it's important to stay informed and pay attention to what's happening.
For sure. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Daily Financial News Roundup. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and analysis. Until then, stay curious and keep learning about the world of finance.